All right, here we go with our notes on fertilization, pregnancy, and birth. So to start off, what we need to know is what conception and fertilization mean. Conception is when sperm and ovum meet, and that is when the fertilization happens. And that fertilization generally occurs in the fallopian tubes. So this is a picture kind of showing you how that looks. The sperm have an enzyme in the head of the sperm that starts to eat away at the edge of the egg, and then the sperm can come into the middle, drop off its DNA, and the DNA of the egg and the sperm then mix at that point. Then cells start to divide. So this happens really quite quickly, and we can see through the pictures here that it starts with 2 cells, and then we just continue multiplying and multiplying. How we get twins with identical twins, it's when one egg that has been fertilized splits in half. So it's 1 egg and 1 sperm. It's always going to be the same gender, and they're going to look alike. So what happened is over here, 1 sperm, 1 egg, and what happens is it divides. It just splits. With fraternal twins, what happens is there's 2 separate eggs, and those 2 separate eggs are fertilized by 2 separate sperm. They can be the same gender or different gender, and they don't have to look alike. It's going to look more like they're sisters or brothers or brother and sister, but they won't look identical. Identical is only when that 1 sperm and 1 egg splits. So what happens after the egg is fertilized is it needs to implant in the uterine lining or the endometrium. So the egg gets fertilized in the fallopian tubes. It travels down the fallopian tube and implants into the uterine wall. An embryo is what we call an egg that has been fertilized in the first day to 2 months, and we call it a fetus after 2 months. Important organs that we need to know about would be the placenta, and the placenta is a special organ that provides nourishment to the embryo or fetus. Everything that mom intakes goes back to the baby. So there could be good things and bad things. Obviously, fruits, vegetables, protein, oxygen, clean oxygen, all of that stuff is going to be that the mother breathes in, that the mother takes in, is going to go into the baby as well. Bad things would be bad pollution, cigarette smoke, drugs, alcohol. Any of that stuff is going to come into the placenta and travel through the umbilical cord right into the baby. So essentially whatever the mom eats, drinks, smokes, ingests, the baby is going to as well. The umbilical cord, like I just talked about, is the tube that connects the placenta to the embryo or fetus. So that is what is sending the good blood, and along with blood, nutrients, hopefully good blood and hopefully good nutrients that go from the placenta directly to the baby. The amniotic sac or fluid, this is what keeps the embryo or fetus moist and protects it from injury. So it's kind of like how we have that sac around our brain to help keep it from getting injured. It's kind of the same thing to help protect it. So that's what that does as well. So then we have stages of fetal development in the first month. By the end of the first month, again, we call it an embryo. Its brain, spinal cord, and lungs are beginning to form, and the heart begins to beat. And if you were to see this on an ultrasound, it would look like a flickering, just like a little twinkling, but that is actually the heart beating. And the baby at the end of the first month is only about 1/4 of an inch long and weighs less than 1 ounce. And here you can see the spinal cord developing in here, and the brain as well up here. By the end of the second month, it is still called an embryo. We're going to have skin and other organ systems developing. We start to see arms and fingers and legs and toes forming, and the baby at this point is about 1 inch long. At the end of the 3rd month, the baby is now called a fetus. The body is completely formed, but it needs to continue to develop. The baby may begin moving, but it would be too small for the mother to feel. Eyes are being formed, internal organs are beginning to work at this point, and the baby is about 3 inches long and weighs less than 1/2 pound. By the 4-month, the baby is called a fetus. It is 6 to 8 inches long. Fingernails are visible at this point. This is the end of the 4th month, and the mother can begin to feel movement. Also at this point, the gender of the child could be determined in most cases if the parents wanted to. Ears are forming, and the baby is going to weigh about half a pound. By the end of the 5th month, we're still called a fetus. We're growing muscle and internal organs are maturing. The baby weighs about 1 pound. Eyelashes and eyebrows are formed, and the baby can begin hearing sounds as well. At the end of the 6th month, the baby can suck their thumb and is beginning to hiccup as well. Bones are starting to become solid. Baby girls actually are producing their eggs at this point. So by the time a female is born, a baby girl is born, she will have all the eggs that she will have for her life. Whereas males don't start producing sperm until puberty, and they produce sperm for their entire lives. At the end of the 6th month, lungs are not fully developed yet. The baby is 11 to 14 inches long, and it weighs about 1 to 1.5-ish pounds. At the end of the 7th month, still called a fetus, at 28 weeks, we have a 90% chance of survival. So for some moms who are going through maybe some preterm labor or having other issues during pregnancy, that 28 weeks is really our big number that we want to try to get to, because we have a really pretty big chance of survival for the fetus at this point. The babies are able to open and close their eyes, and they can sense light changes. There's a lot more movement. The baby is now about 16 inches long and weighs about 2.5 to 3 pounds. At the end of the 8th month, the main purpose, or not the main purpose, but a big thing that the baby is trying to do at this point is just put on weight. So starting to add fat storage so that when they are living outside of the womb, the baby can survive and stay warm. There are going to be stronger movements, and even in some cases from the outside, you might be able to see a belly moving. The baby's going to be 16 to 18 inches long and weigh about 4.5 to 5.5 pounds. By the end of the 9th month, the baby is fully developed and gaining approximately an ounce per day. The baby also will go into a head down position with legs tucked, and this is called the fetal position, getting ready to deliver. And the bones of the head are going to be soft and easy for delivery. So the bones in the skull can actually mold to fit down the birth canal. The baby is approximately 20 inches long and weighs anywhere from 6 to 9 pounds. Birth and delivery begins with labor, and that's when the muscles of the uterus begin to contract to push the baby down the birth canal. Another sign of labor is water can break, and that's that amniotic sac that is rupturing and the amniotic fluid is released. Labor can last anywhere from minutes to hours to days. Most babies are born head first. However, a breech baby is when a baby has feet or hips first in the uterus, and this is 3 to 4% of all births, and it's very risky for the baby. It's also very risky for the mother. So nowadays, if a baby is breech, we end up generally taking a baby, having them born via cesarean section. These are different variations of a breech. So complete breech is just butt down. Incomplete, we have 1 foot up, and then straight up butt down is called frank breech. So just some extra information. Cesarean section, which is again how we deliver a baby if it is in a breech position, is where we actually cut an incision in the mother's abdomen, and then we can take the baby out that way. In some cases it's planned, like if you know ahead of time that the baby is breech, it would be a planned, or if there's something that's causing us to need a cesarean section, it could be planned, or it could be just emergency, the baby isn't dropping or having a hard time delivering, or something like that. So it can be planned or unplanned. After the baby is born, the umbilical cord is cut, and then the uterus contracts to release the placenta. So it's called the afterbirth. The placenta is called the afterbirth because it is delivered after the baby. Other terms that you might need to know: miscarriage is spontaneous loss of the fetus before 20 weeks. After 20 weeks, it is a preterm delivery, so the mother would deliver that baby. And causes can be several things. It could be a chromosomal problem where there's something wrong with the baby is not going to be able to live outside of the womb, and the body just kind of knows that, and therefore the baby cannot continue growing. It could be from drug or alcohol abuse or environmental toxins. There could be hormonal problems. There could be infections. Sometimes obesity is a cause of miscarriage, and also potential problems with female reproductive organs. Smoking can also be a cause of miscarriage. These are the stages of birth. So we can see in the first stage, the baby is still pretty high, and the cervix is not what we call dilated. And the cervix begins to get bigger, and the baby starts to push down further. And then the delivery is where the baby is actually coming through. And then stage 3 is when this placenta comes off of the uterine lining and is delivered as well after the baby. So those are the 3 stages of labor and a cute little baby. So now you know all about fertilization, pregnancy, and birth. Hopefully your notes are filled out, and we'll take this information and use it in class next time. Have a good day.